Okay, and we're live, I think. Are we? The restream has changed my whole studio background, so I think we're live. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tori, and this evening I am so excited to kick off some honor anthology buddies chats with my friend Tim Facciola. So we met at Dragonsteel in December, and before that, we had both been asked to be in the honor anthology that Zach Diamante put together, that is dropping officially at the end of March, which is very exciting. And I have had the opportunity to read some of Tim's work. We're going to talk about that. He's got a Kickstarter going on, all sorts of really exciting stuff going on in your writing life right now. And I'm very excited. And we both love gladiators. So that is obviously something we're going to be getting into in a little bit. But Tim, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you so much for having me on. It is an honor. I'm really excited to chat, Tori.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have The Vengeful Realm, that is your main trilogy. There's a prequel, standalone, oops, wrong side, standalone prequel, Ghosts of Rhaenyra. And then you have your brand new Kickstarter, which I want to start the stream before we get into all of the nitty gritty writing stuff. For anybody that wants to check it out, there is a current Kickstarter going on for Tim's brand new standalone.
This will be the first of four.
First of four.
It'll be the first of a 4-book series.
Fabulous.
Loosely connected to it's all under the same umbrella. It's part of the same world. It's the same universe, but it's not the same. There's like one overlapping god system. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So everybody who is watching this on replay or in the chat, down in the description box below, you can find Tim's website and also a link to the Kickstarter, which has a beautiful special edition, by the way. How does that feel? Yes, we need to blurb Liz.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the beautiful cover was made by another honor anthology author.
Keeping it in the family.
Liz Delton. Yeah. And guess who told me to work with Liz? Another honor anthology author in Brady Hunsaker. So we got to plug our buddies here.
You guys are never going to get rid of us at this point. Like, this is we have started something here.
Keep it going. So
I do have to ask with that though, what is it like to see your books as a book of yours as a beautiful, because I feel like that's such a milestone thing for so many authors, is seeing that special edition come together and getting to do all of the artwork and tell me about that process of what scenes do you choose? How do you decide what goes into that special edition?
Wow. I am still figuring that out because so I obviously got a lot of artwork done beforehand.
Yes.
Because that takes time. You're finding the artists who and a lot of it is trial and error. Like there's some people that I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. And then there's other artists where I was like, I didn't really love how this came out. So and I think that's just kind of part of
the game.
And I think you can have a vision of something, and it's easy to have a vision of something. It is hard to share a vision of something. And but I think when you have that collaborative element and it really does come together, it makes it that much more beautiful. For me, writing is very much a lonely thing. And so getting to collaborate, my audiobook narrator, Landon Solberg, I sit in a Zoom call with him. He's in a booth and he lets me direct as he's doing it.
Love it.
And it's such a collaborative element. It's so cool. It's like how give me a little context here. And we get to even in the voice acting, there's little Easter eggs. There's little subtle hints of teeny tiny things because he cares at that level, which I love because that's not amazing. Everyone's going to care about your work the way you care about your work. And when you find creators in different mediums who have a skill set that I couldn't begin to even look at from a distance. It's amazing to see wow, that is better than I imagined. So Liz making the cover, I had said I have some loose ideas. I want a mace on it, throwing some lightning because that's there's a lightning djinn in this one.
Cool.
And then I don't know, like it's, you know, ancient Persian inspired from
Love
the
that.
Achaemenid era. So I was like, you know, make it feel like that. And like that was all I really gave her. And she was like, got it. I was
Got
like,
it.
put this quote on the back. And she was just like, got it. And literally everything I pictured in my head, my dumb brain, my dumb artist brain, I was just like, and what she put, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And with the art too, like there's this one piece, and I was like, okay, this is what this guy kind of sort of looks like. And I
Sure.
want him with a wicker shield charging in with a mace, kind of
Love it.
like glowing with sunlight and electricity in a dark miasmic world. Go. And what I got back was so dope. And I was just like, um, wow, okay.
Amazing.
Like I think that part to me is because like I don't know, I'm not like a things person. I've never been
Yeah.
like a things person. So like um the only reason I have special edition books is because my friends started making special edition books. And I like that's the reality. So for me,
Yeah.
but like I was never like I want to see my book in a special edition. It was more that like
Yeah.
people were asking me like when are you going to
Right.
do a special edition? I was just like, huh. Um, and so that was a big part of it. And honestly, like Zach was a big inspiration. He was like, listen, man, this is what you're going to do. And
You
um,
said that and I heard it in his voice. Exactly. I was like, yep, we've all been there. I feel like where Zach sets us down and is like, all right, listen.
we had a sit down, coffee
Yep.
date, and he was like, Bubba, listen, this is what's gonna happen. And I was just like, okay, you're right,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Great.
And I think that like, you know, having a couple of um, you know, my readers like asking me like, you know, hey, when, you know, are we gonna get special editions of A Vengeful Realm? And I was just like, maybe, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to begin
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to Zach about it, and then I was talking to Brady about it. I had seen a couple people who worked with Merrick Books,
Yep.
and that felt like, because like the biggest overwhelming thing was like becoming a fulfillment center, and I was just like,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
brother, you like I couldn't. So that like Merrick takes care of a lot of that, and like, you know, so
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, working with them, they said, okay, I want you to get the art, send me the art. And I was like, okay.
Yep.
And then they're like, get me the interior, send me the interior. I was like, okay, like I needed that
Nice.
checklist
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
And so there's a lot of buildup. Like I am very much a hurry up and wait kind of person. So
Mm,
I had that conversation with Zach in probably February or March of
sure.
2025. And so by May of 2025, this was in the works.
Yeah.
I had already I outlined, I did I have a very thorough outlining process, did all my outlining, I started writing it. I was like, okay, I'm feeling good about this. I started getting artwork commissioned based on some of the more, I started pretty general. I was like, I want some character art with some scenery. I want
Yep.
some character art with some scenery. I want like a landscape thing and some like thematic tonality thing. Um, and so this we just hit as of today the third stretch goal, which gets us gilded edges, which is super exciting.
Ooh,
Because like yeah, that's like a special like I feel like
that's
okay, a faux leather book is fancy, right? That's fancy.
sure. Yeah.
You know, interior artwork, that's fancy. But
Amazing.
gilded
Yep.
edges,
That's a special kind of fancy.
that's a special kind of fancy. And I'm not a pinky up kind of
Yeah.
guy. I'm a black t-shirt kind of guy. So it's like, ooh.
I feel that. I'm not in one today, but I'm black t-shirt pretty much all the time also.
A black t-shirt with a beanie. I know.
Exactly. Yep.
I
Yep.
gotta feel you. So that kind of like, again, the ability to collaborate has been my
Yeah.
favorite part.
Yeah.
And getting in touch with artists who have, again, supreme talent, and getting to partner and bring something to life that like in my head lives rent free, but like
Right.
seeing it become more in someone else's vision
So
That's
cool.
an amazing feeling. That
Yeah.
to me is much more than like holding this special edition book eventually in
Right.
the, you know,
Right.
hopefully
Yeah.
not so distant future. But to me, it's like that, you know, journey before destination, but getting to work with and collaborate on,
Yeah.
that's, I'd say, like the most special part of this to me.
That's so cool. Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely love, like, and it's just, I think it comes from that deeply rooted passion for art in general. Like we really love our own craft, but we also love seeing people that are really good at theirs. And so whether that's narration or cover design or character portraits or, you know, writing of any of these kind of mediums that go into making a book, it's just, it is so cool to come out of that isolated writer cave and get to see the world take shape outside of you. And I think that's where the magic really starts to just, you know, compound like crazy.
Yeah.
I get yelled at in every live stream almost, Tim, when I don't wear a beanie.
Oh,
I'm sorry, guys.
imposter.
It's hot in here, okay? Beanies are really warm. And we're actually supposed to get between 6 and 20 inches of snow in the next couple of days, so I'll probably have one on shortly. But I wanted to say hi. We've got a bunch of people in the chat that are hanging out with us. Hi, Leah. Britton's here. David's here. Hello, hello.
What's up,
Andrew
David?
was
I
here.
know David. I know him.
Hey, I love when people have like friends and family show up to live streams. It's the best because usually they cause some
Some
shenanigans.
mayhem. Yeah. Shenanigans. Yes. Bring on the shenanigans.
Zamar, fellow fantasy author. Hello, Zamar. Chris Navo. And Janny Wirt stopped by to say hello. Hello. Hey, Tori and Tim. Cool to hear about
Hello,
special editions.
hello.
Congrats. Casey's here. Hey, guys. Andrew, I know the answer to this, but our chat might not. Tim, did you enjoy the Spartacus TV show?
Yes.
The answer is no, everyone. No. Hated it.
So here, so okay, it is clearly not a historical representation of anything.
What? Come on.
It at no point attempts to be historically accurate. And I think like if you approach it from the standpoint of, history, you will be disappointed.
100%. Yeah,
Severely disappointed.
Character
but
arcs, though.
the from a writing craft and character work standpoint, and like thematically too, like I thought they really I loved the language, I loved the dialogue, I loved how they crafted like the detail of everything.
Yeah.
But they very easily at the beginning said, you know what, don't try to make it, this is not a History Channel thing, don't worry about it, what's going to look cool. And that's what they did. I mean, even from the standpoint of like there I don't know, this is a very niche reference, but in Arrested Development season 4, Tobias is trying to wear a toga on his Eat Pray Love journey to India, and he gets trapped in the bathroom of like the restroom on a plane, and he's like, I just wanted to look like one of the hot guys from Spartacus. And this the notion of like gladiators being like these like super fit, like epitome of humanity, like no, they were fattened up, so they could bleed and not die, because dying was not the point. They were, and so like it's just so funny to me, like historically it's just like this didn't happen, but I really did enjoy the fiction that it was. And so I think like there's I know like I have this buddy who's like a historian, and he's just like, no, come on, man, no. And I'm just like, just forget, just take it for what it is, though. Take it for what it is. It is a it is fantasy without magic in a Roman aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, that was, so I love the character work in the Spartacus season so much. It's one of those shows that is a product of its current age, where it's like how much like adult content can we pack into this show and get away with it? Which was, I was like, okay, can we focus on the actual character stuff here, guys? Because like, really,
So it's
but
funny you mentioned that. I had the same because I had recommended it. So like there was an the
I know
House
I
of
can't recommend
Asher.
it to anybody.
The House of Asher coming out. I was like, oh, you gotta watch this, and I was like, and then they were like, dude, I was like, oh my god, I forgot
Yeah.
how often this is like a. It's
Oh
I
my
can't even
gosh,
call
it's
it a trope.
ridiculous.
It's a crutch.
I skipped so much of that show. I'm just like, guys, for real. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I have to
yeah.
ask, who do you have a favorite gladiator from Spartacus?
Ooh,
Or a favorite character in general, but
I think Asher is a tremendous villain. I love Asher as
totally
a
agree.
villain.
Yep.
I think he is, especially in the prequel season. There's a shift from him that I think is really power because he's like he's a recruit with Crixus and he has these dreams of glory and
Yep.
he out of circumstance becomes like the
worst.
strong arm for Badiatus
Yeah.
and because of that, it kind of sends him down this path. And there's a moment. Who is he with? He's with Dagon, and I can't remember Indus. He's with Dagon and Indus, and he says he's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this because
Yeah.
Indus Badiatus tells him like they saw his face, he's got to go, and he says, brother, I'm sorry, and then
Yeah.
and at that point, I paused it and went, is that genuine? Is it genuine? Was it at this time genuine? And like the fact that the show was able to make me, I haven't seen the new House of Asher series yet, but the fact that it gave me the opportunity to go, at one point, was this guy not such a snake?
Yeah.
If circumstances had been different. Like I'm a big believer that we make our own monsters, and this was the making of his monsterhood. And so I like Asher. I really enjoyed the relationship and the complexity of the relationship between Oenomaus and Gannicus.
Yes.
I loved that. The rivalry between Crixus and Spartacus was hugely inspirational in A Vengeful Realm. Like I loved that that dynamic of like, this is, you stand on sacred ground watered with the tears of blood. Like I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then you have someone who's like, all you desire is glory, but like I want to be wreathed in the laurel of freedom. And like there's just so much to like, so those dynamics I really loved. I would say if I had to pick a favorite, I want to have like a contrarian answer of just like but no, I'd say, I mean, I'd say Gannicus is super fun and carefree, and I think the reason why like I like that is because I am so like in my head the headstrong Spartacus. So like I look at Gannicus and go like, you just go out there and smile like and laugh about this. Good for you, man. I don't have that. I don't, whatever gene that is, it's not in my code.
Not there.
It was not, nope, not in my code.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like I'm a big sucker for stories of, like, I think there is such a massive range of redemption arcs, right? And one of my favorites is the eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. I don't care about anything or anyone except myself, to caring maybe about something else. I love that arc as for a character arc so much. It gets me every single time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. So
yeah, and I think
there's so many good character moments in there.
They built the reluctance well. Like I think the reluctant protagonist is usually like, tried and not so true anymore of just like, all right, let's get on with it. But
Yeah.
in Gannicus's arc, like it was so believable the way in which it's like, this is not my cause. I'm trying to save a friend from throwing his life away for this dumb thing you guys are doing.
Right.
You're just getting people hurt.
Yeah.
And from that point to, where it ends, with him along the Appian Way, it's just kind of like, huh. And
Yeah. How did we get
again,
here? Yeah.
yeah, there's just a
Yeah.
lot of like poetry in motion.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned Spartacus, or someone mentioned Spartacus in the chat.
Andrew, yep.
So here is the weird way in which the story of Spartacus has inspired me so wholly as a creator. So if you've read any of my books, if you've read all of my books, you'll notice that there is a through line through all of them. And that is, they're always rebellion stories. It is always though the oppressed rising against the tyrants of the time.
Right.
And in this story in particular, the Forsaken Forge, this new one, I knew from the time I had first watched Spartacus, I was like, I want to write with a poetry like that. And at the time, I was like, I tried it and I was just like, nope, this doesn't work. This is unreadable. This will make sense to no one. I tried, I rewrote the whole thing. And so I just didn't think, I didn't have the craft yet. I didn't have the writing craft yet. And then I really learned storycraft. And I feel like, with working on A Vengeful Realm, because the prose in A Vengeful Realm and Ghost of Rainy is pretty like direct.
Straightforward.
I have a couple lines here and there where I'm just like, huh. And then there's
that was a good one.
That was a good one. Yeah. But like for the most part, I'm just like, it's direct. And I think that works well because it's already such a steep audience integration. There's seven point of view characters. There's a lot of factions within factions. There's, it's one thing to learn all the god systems and then to realize that like some of the god systems are based on a lie and what part is real, what part is a false. So like I needed to make it more direct, more accessible. Because it's already like I've had, even like my good reviews, it's like this is trying to learn 4D chess and just realizing I won't learn it in time.
Right.
And so like I think that the prose works well for that. And then I knew I wanted to have this poetic warrior pacifist. I wanted all of those things in one thing. I'm like, how would I make this make sense?
Right.
And it's from that story seed that the Forsaken Forge began. A poetic warrior who is a pacifist. And then I do a deep cultural dive because like I wanted this Greco-Roman feel. And I played on the Hollywood side of it for sure, more so than the historical elements. This time I went much more like historical and cultural. And I think part of that is because like most people, like we learn in at least in the Western world, we learn so much about the Greeks and the Romans. Our government is based on like a lot of like we're just kind of inundated with it. So there's so much familiarity that like, do we need another history? There's so many of them. And so, but with this one, it's like we really, in terms of trying to do research and find stuff, we really don't have a lot of primary sources. We have a lot of Western influenced vantage points on like the ancient Persian Empire, but not a lot of primary sources because they got burned. So because of that, I was having a hard time finding like conclusive research. And so if another thing you might not know about me is my day job is in fitness. And I've always been attracted to unconventional means of training. So I got started working with like club bells and maces and gatas and all of these types of things which have ancient origins and can be traced back all the way to the
Right.
Indo-Persian
Which is super
cultures.
cool, by the way.
Thank you. I love it because I'm a nerd for both fitness and movement.
It's
And
nerd fitness, and that is just I love that so much. I love it.
so I was trying to find like I knew that like they had these zircanas, and the zircana translates directly as House of Strength, and House of Strengths were basically like a dojo, if you will. People
Yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
go and they would train and they would practice, but there was this sense of that, like similar to Bushido, like or chivalry. There's the Javan Mardi, and the Javan Mardi is this culture of doing good, doing right, lifting others up. You build your strength, but use it to lift others up, not to dominate others.
Right.
Everything was for the community. Everything was for supporting others. And that was like, huh, this is A, not what I've been told.
Yeah.
And B, so fascinating how like communal and progressive it was. So the more that I was looking into it, I was like, okay, I want to explore this at a deeper level. And
Right.
so I found a Morshed, basically a sensei, if you will, who trains out of Dubai at this point, but um, he trained at these zircanas in Iran that can trace their Morsheds back hundreds
Cool.
of years.
Very cool.
And getting to learn from someone who has such like commitment and like honor to everyone who came before, it there's like such a pride and a pride and a humility at the same time. It's so
Yeah.
humbling to realize like you are training in a way that was rooted in
Mm.
such wholesome. It was never about self,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
loved that. So I knew that this character was going to be a teacher, a morshed, a
Yep.
leader of these palavans, these people who would train. So he needed to be a champion at one time, who was then turned into a teacher in a time of peace because he's a pacifist.
Right.
So what would the circumstances be to organically shape this man into such a leader of the community, who is like his values all center around like helping those in need, whether it's feeding the hungry or sheltering the those unhomed, or providing for the sick or infirm. Like
Right.
this is his. So he wakes up in the morning and he does his movement, he does his training, he does his reflecting, teaches others how to do the same thing. And then brings like he sends them away, and other people come in need, and whether it's tending to their wounds, giving that, like they have an apothecary, like whatever like people need,
Right.
and then they send them on their way. And this is not a for-profit thing. This is it's just there's different ones and around the community, around the city, and people go to the one that's closest to them or the one that they vibe with.
Yeah.
And but what makes this person need, like, okay, where's the rebellion come in? Why is this
Right.
pacifist
Right.
need a rebellion, right? So and again, I mentioned that there's overlap with the god system. So this is where like the eventual realm elements come into play, and I love that stuff. I love leaving little Easter
Yeah.
eggs. So it's not needed, but it's like cool for me, and I write for readers like me who appreciate those like little details. You don't need them. They're just like a throwaway line. It's not like I like self-indulgently like spend forever on them. But it's just enough to kind of like further ground. Um, and I can't tell if you froze. Did I freeze? Are we still live? I'm gonna keep going. Nope, nope. Something bad has happened, people. If I'm here alone, um, we're in trouble because I don't know how to parent this situation. Thanks for joining. I guess I'll talk because I don't know if we're still connected. So in what is the circumstances that lead to a pacifist, a teacher, a community leader leading a rebellion? So this was a world where the gods, in fact, lived amongst the mortals, the devas. They had descended from the Arathi, from the heavens, if you will, to live amongst mortals and teach them in the ways of how to live. And that is what the main character, his name's Iskander, that's how he lives his life, based on the teachings of these devas. But the devas died 64 years before the story takes place, 24 years before he was born. And so he is the last of a dying breed of people who hold to heart this religion that has literally died. Because when the gods died, when the devas died, they didn't just like, peace. When they died, a miasma rose in their wake, and this miasma corrupts anything and everything within it. And it's not fully, it hasn't spread throughout all of Denegon, which is the continent, but it has kind of dominated the particular country of Iskander's home, Amara. And there were 8 major cities, and 4 of them are completely just trapped in the miasma. And what the miasma does is it kind of like turns beasts into fiends, into these like amalgamated monster things, and men into the same. And so there's all this corruption. And you're back. You've had me really nervous.
No, I was like, oh no, I bet Tim's sweating.
I said, I was like, I don't know how to parent this. I'm just going to keep talking. I can do that. I can keep talking.
So I'm so sorry. My computer decided that Chrome needed to update right now.
Right now.
So I sincerely apologize. Thank you for just, I'm sure you were doing great.
Well, I mean, the chat can let you know. Just don't let me see it. But so no adult supervision. Yeah, not wise. That wasn't I need an adult. I need an adultier adult if need be. So
if I'm supposed to be the adultier adult, we have serious issues, Tim.
We're in trouble.
You see, this is it. It's a channel takeover. I just do this to my guests occasionally to see if they're still on their toes, See
how they respond. I mean, I like that. I like that.
But yeah, I don't want to, if you were in the middle of talking about the book, I don't want to stop that. Otherwise, sure, I have a question. But
so a quick summary. Gods die, new guy rises. And it's in the new guy rising, the eternal Shah, who has not aged a day since the fall of the Devas in 64 years. So now, even though the gods used to live amongst the mortals and they taught all the mortals how to live, well, once they die and this new guy shows up, everyone just kind of gravitates. And the new religion, the new world order, it assimilates a lot. And so people go along with it. And the Javan Marty, once again, this code of what it means to do good, do right for all, this chivalrous code is just slowly distorted. And who it applies to slowly begins to erode.
Sure.
And now we're at a point where Iskander, who is the Morshed of this Zircana that's been in his family for almost a millennia, they're taking it away from him because he doesn't preach the right religion anymore. And how do they do that? Not with force. They just take away the thing that basically his 501 status. Basically he gets taxed out. They raise his taxes to the point where he cannot do this anymore. And so they supplant him. And this is happening, like, this is not like a spoiler. This is like first opening pages, chapter 1.
Sure.
And how does a man who has lost everything, I say lost everything, because even before that. Page 1, chapter 1, Iskander is sitting before the purifying fire of his son's final flame. It is a funeral ceremony. So, then we embark on this murder mystery of who killed his son and why, because of course it is connected to all of this. And the realization that what caused the gods to die was a severing of the braid that connected the mortal and divine realms. So now the only hope of saving his son's soul is gathering the remains of the fallen gods to reconstruct the braid so that his son can reach the afterlife.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that. I love, can I just say, I know that all of us, to some degree, most of us writers in fantasy are heavily inspired by some kind of historical setting, right? All of us have our specific nerd eras, right? Like mine is like Joseon and Goryeo era, ancient Korea, and like, you know, feudal Japan and all of that kind of stuff. I love that I learn almost as much about history talking to fantasy authors as their story, which I absolutely love. So I love when you get so passionate, and it just, you can tell when you're reading that it's just osmosis into every little bit of the story. I love that so much.
And I think without history, like everyone, I think there was a time period where there was a lot of like complaint of like, you know, there's a lot of the same, right? Like this Western European. And I get that. I do. I understand.
Yeah.
But that's what we were taught. That's what we learned.
Right.
And we as students were not necessarily encouraged to explore. And for other sociological and societal reasons, we're not getting a lot of own voices from those communities.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take like, you know, the Write What You Know crowd. I don't know anything, so I'm going to go and learn it and immerse myself in it, and, you know, try to at the very least and create some kind of inspiration for people to like do further exploring. But I mean, hopefully, like it's very important to me that I'm carrying this torch well, because it is something that, like, I think as creators, we do have a creative responsibility to honor those who came before, to also honor the cultures that were like, fantasy is appropriation, no matter how you slice it, right? But I think it's important that we honor it and respect it and represent it well. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities that come from that. And then it just opens people's eyes up to how big our world is.
Well, and I think too, like fantasy, you know, I always look at it as fantasy is in my mind an appreciation, where if you are carrying that responsibility in the right way, what I think, you know, these books should do is encourage the, like, wow, I didn't know that. I want to go learn more. I want to go, like, it opens or unlocks the door for then the reader to say, I want to read more things like this, or, oh, I heard this author was inspired by ancient Persia. I want to learn more about that, you know? So I think it's such a cool thing to be able to continually start building in more of those doorways, because a lot of readers go down the hallway and they only see a couple of doors because that's all they think is there. Right. And so we're just adding things, adding options for them to say, because there's so many great stories in Western European history, but we've seen a lot of them done so many times that I think it's fun to now, like, really, and important to now bring in, look, there's so many things, and that cross-referencing of all these different cultures and all these different parts of history can only make it deeper and richer for storytelling. So yeah, I love passionate history nerds writing fantasy so much. Janny has a little bit of encouragement for us too here. No writer alive is truly an adult, and ain't that the truth?
that takes some of the pressure off for sure.
It
For
does.
sure.
It does. Yeah. I mean, so I mean, on the train of thought of I think a lot of writers, especially fantasy writers, are people who we kind of, you know, white knuckled a bit of our childhood into adult with us as much as possible. So when you go back to, I'm going to going back to the beginning question of like when you were becoming a reader or becoming interested in storytelling, whether that's books, film, what were some of the stories that like really impacted you falling in love with storytelling?
Do you remember the Animorphs?
Oh yeah.
My come to God moment was the Animorphs at a Scholastic book fair in
Love it.
1996 or 97, like whatever
Yeah.
it was. That was my beginning.
Yeah.
And I
Shout
picked
out to
up
the
an
90s
Animorph book.
kids.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the Animorphs, you missed out. But like the Animorphs was like a, I want to say it was like 68 books, and it
Oh
had
my gosh,
like,
ridiculous amount of books. Yeah.
and it was just such, it was a story intended for young readers that was
Mm.
easily accessible, but it wrestled with so many tough things.
Mm.
Like book one was not an easy thing. Like Tobias's home life, and Marco's parents were divorced, and like, you know, that Rachel's family was trying to move. Like there was like all, like these kids were going through real life things, and then an Andalite happened into their to
Yep.
give them the blue box that allowed them to change into animals. And you know, they realized the principal was in on it from the start, and he was he was
Not the
possessed by the
principal.
Yerks, and it did create in me a very deep-seated fear of authority figures at schools. No, I'm just kidding. But for real though,
I mean, if you meet a kid that grew up in the 90s on the films and books that we were given who is not scarred in some way, like, you know, I feel like that was just part of the millennial starter package, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I like some of my like, I don't know, did you ever see the film Once Upon a Forest?
No.
Oh my goodness. I watched it at my grandparents' house, probably at age 6 or 7. And like, everybody plug your ears if you don't want spoilers for Once Upon a Forest, I guess. But like, you have these tiny little woodland creatures whose parents die after a giant tanker falls over and gas goes into the forest everywhere. And it's horrifying. And as a kid, I was just like, wow, this, like, you know, and I watched it probably to my Old Yeller was one of my audiobooks I listened to go to sleep. Like it explains so much about us, I feel like.
Yeah, right. Like
after reading
man.
Ghosts of Rainia, this makes so, you know, this makes so much sense.
Yeah. I will. So like my whole thing from the like, again, we talked a little bit about the importance of like why you write. So like in
Right.
the author coaching stuff that I do, I kind of set out like this is the creative responsibility ladder.
Yeah.
And at like the first rung, if you want to write a story that just allows people to escape, cool.
Great.
Like go for it. If you write a story that's just meant to entertain and like not think too hard about it, that's fine, man. Like do your thing. But it's not until like level 3, which the third rung is connection. Like that means you have a theme that is worth talking about in a universal, way. And then level 4, this is where we start like having something to say about the world. Like maybe it's teaching, maybe it's wrestling with, maybe it doesn't necessarily provide an answer, but it asks the question, right?
Right.
And then the 5th tier is to challenge. Like I want to write stories that make people look at certain aspects of their life, their culture, how they live, how they move through their real world life, and go, am I doing it right? Because if you encounter, if you like, I think fantasy is so richly unique in that because you can go in and leave your biases and prejudices at the door.
Right.
and just look at it from the standpoint of like, this is a person in a tough situation and here's how they move through it. And if
Right.
that tough situation kind of echoes with some things outside the page,
Right.
like I think that that's what makes readers with media literacy. But that's what makes readers more empathetic and
Right.
more learned in terms of how to navigate this world. Better communicators, better,
Right.
more understanding, more likely and willing to forgive. All of these things happen because we've read it in books.
Right. Yeah.
And the Animorphs did all of those things. It wrestles with PTSD. It wrestles with war. It wrestles with like so many things that
Yeah.
are not just about space aliens that
Right.
have intergalactically been screwing each other over. It's real. And I think that like I don't know when I decided to take up that cross and march around with it, but like I do think that it's something that is edifying
Yeah.
to, and I hope refreshing. And like I don't want my books to ever come off preachy,
Sure.
but I do hope again they encourage people to ask better questions.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just it. Because one of like as a reader and a reviewer, I have spoken out many times about books that, and especially in a lot of modern fantasy, what I consider sledgehammer themes, because there's such a lack of trust in the reader at this point. And I think there's a lot of factors to that. But you know what I look for is books. I want to see books that are inviting me to a conversation.
Yep.
I
Not
want to
giving you an
see,
answer.
yeah, here's what you need to think. Here's how you need to think about it. Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Like my audience has seen me do that on camera in book reviews so many times where I'm just like, did you get it, guys? Did you get the theme? Did you see that? Did you see what they did there? And I think a lot of authors don't have that trust in their reader. They don't have the, hey, I'm just telling you a story that may have some themes that invite you into a conversation with the experiences and you know thoughts and opinions that you have. It leaves space for the reader, and I think that that's a underrated skill set in modern fantasy, personally.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point, like the concept of trusting your reader.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think I have too much trust in my reader. In terms of like,
there is no hand holding here.
yeah. Like I'm not like, oh, you want to? Here you go. We're gonna drop you right in. Good luck.
Yeah.
But I do think that like, you know, there's a when you are spoon fed, it's so easy to just turn off.
Yes.
You don't engage critically anymore. You're just reading for entertainment. And I say this all the time. Like the greatest human travesty is the inability or unwillingness to communicate effectively. And story has the power to teach us how to do that. But that starts with having writers who invest in what it means to be human,
right,
and tell human stories, and trust that like, okay, so I don't like talking badly about other books, but there was a book that was really popular in the bookish spheres, the bookish communities, really popular, and I was excited to read it. And when I say I hate finished this book, I
understand what you mean. I've done
finished
that.
this book. And the big thing was it felt like I'm really happy that the people who read it got the response out of it that they got. I am.
Sure.
However, what it told me is that like the fact that this, what I would consider like, you had one therapy session. You know what I mean? Like you had one therapy session and it was sledgehammered into your head. And then you just took that from the therapist and said like this. And I was just, I get it. And people were like, like having these huge revelations. And I think that there's just like, I'm glad people had that moment. I hope it doesn't stop there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I understand like stepping stones. So I do think that there's like those sledgehammer books. I do think that they serve a purpose. They just shouldn't be the end goal.
Right.
Because, like, I do think that some people need that. I've met those people. I'm sure you've met those people who need that. And, like, they're like, wow, I get it. And because they get it, and, like, I think there's no worse feeling than picking up a book that everyone else likes. And they're like, this is so good. And you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, it's one thing if you're like, I don't connect with it. But if you don't
get it,
yeah. Like it's like when you're with a group of friends and everyone's laughing at the joke and you don't get it and you're just laughing along to fit in.
Yep.
Like, I think that if readers don't have some of those easier books, because let's face it, school isn't teaching them.
Right.
And so, like, there's been this huge revival, which is great in fiction, specifically in fantasy. And maybe the content isn't as edifying. I think that's a safe word. We'll use edifying. Maybe it's not as edifying as it could, would, or should be.
I won't be offended. So you're good.
If it's pure crap.
You're probably going to be way nicer about this than I would be. So you're good. My audience is just probably chuckling right now because they can probably hear the words I would have said.
Do you want to fill in my blanks? Are we like?
No, you're good. I don't want to speak for you at all. So you just.
So I think that it's an invitation to reading for people who haven't read or stopped reading or lost love of reading. And it's welcoming them back, usually because it's sensationalized. And so it's
easy to consume.
Books,
yes. Very easy to consume.
It's junk food. It has calories. It's not all that nutritious, but it has calories. You need calories to live.
Sure.
But
well, and I always have to remind myself and my audience too, like, remember that people you see on BookTube, authors who have been in the writing craft and obsessed with storytelling their whole lives, we are not the average reader. Right. And so like, it is my opinions of what might be edifying literature versus somebody else are going to like I have a valid opinion, but also if they're coming into it and I'm expecting them to have the same thought, experience, opinion on storytelling as I do, that's not fair to them.
Yeah.
And I think, I've had some really great conversations with people about books that I personally did not find very deep and nutritious, but they can still spark really amazing conversations regardless of the content level. So I think that's another thing that people kind of skip over sometimes, is that no matter where the book falls on that ladder of responsibility, you can always have a discussion about it. You can always say, what do I wish this book had more of, or what were some of the themes that it was bringing up, and how would I go deeper into them? Like, there's so many different ways to talk about them that still gives it some extra value. I think. So,
well, what is the purpose of stories,
Ryan?
If not to bring people together, right? If we can't connect over the stories, it's kind of a failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if like once upon a time all stories were oral, they were meant not to be in isolation. So I really do believe that if we can't have a discussion about books, about stories, about storycraft, writing craft, whatever, we're failing. We're failing the people that we set out to serve when we picked up the pen. And I don't, especially with like the advent of AI right now, and like people want to create because like they want the monetary return, or they think that there's going to be some kind of back padding. I don't know what it is. but like the point should be connection first, because
Right.
that is the origin of story.
Yeah.
And like I'm really much a believer in the brain chemistry and the psychology that comes with storytelling,
Right.
how it works, how it resonates in the brain, how it changes people.
It's so cool. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why one of the things that I hear around the book community sometimes that does kind of irritate me to some degree is when people talk about like it's not that like you can read stuff and like it doesn't do anything to, like it's fine, I can read like and I don't know about you, but I read a lot of dark epic fantasy. That is kind of my, and dark epic military fantasy, that's my sweet spot, right? Writing, reading, all of it. I have to take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Because as human beings, we were not built to handle the level of intensity that our world throws at us. We were not built for that, right?
Yeah.
So there's, and I think for somebody to think that, oh, it doesn't, like, it's not, you know, I can read absolutely anything and I can consume it constantly and it's not going to do it. It does change the way that you are, like the way you act, the way that you input what's going on around you. It definitely does matter. So that's why when people use the phrase, I'm just glad they're reading, I'm like, I get the intent there. I really do. And I appreciate the intent behind it.
It should
but
be, there should be a stepping stone.
And especially as a parent now, like I have a 13-year-old son, right? Like, which by the way, you guys, Dragonsteel was so sweet because Tim and a bunch of the other authors that were there, I asked them all to send little video clips saying happy birthday to my son while we were there. And he just got the biggest kick out of that. He just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So thank you for doing that. But as a 13-year-old boy who loves dragons and battles and shipwrecks and all, all this stuff, if somebody tells me, oh, I'm just happy he's reading, and will hand him anything regardless of nutritional value, I'm like, that to me as a parent, when I'm feeding my children,
mm-hmm.
I'm just glad, like there comes a point where when you have the opportunity to give them something that like elevates a little bit, please do.
Please.
Yeah.
Please
I mean, oh, and Kai in the chat here, she is a psychology professor and she has some really beautiful, she's been on some interviews for her new book recently, and she has had some fantastic like mind brain, storytelling content that's just been fantastic. So I love that she's enjoying our conversation. One of the things Janny mentioned a little bit ago here that I wanted to pull, because I do think there's a great conversation in here too, goes both ways. When readers don't trust the author the moment the story deviates from what they expect. And this is something I see as an expectation that's being set with a lot of modern fantasy now, is a lot of readers want all the answers at the beginning of book one. And that as a series writer who like really likes to really go deep and like give these character arcs time to breathe and time to, and I'm sure you too, I'm like, I'm not going to give you everything at the end of book one. I'm not going to do that. Take a breath, be patient,
mm-hmm.
Trust me a little bit.
So this is something that's really.
Let's go.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Let's go. You're gearing up. I can feel it.
So this is something that like I really I think that there's a way structurally in which we as writers can almost train our readers subliminally to have this kind of breadcrumb following element and build that trust. So the concept of a pre-story. So pre-story meaning that this is it's an on-page in-story, but full story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a story question that gets answered. There is an inciting incident and a climax that leads into the main action of the story. And in doing so, subliminally, we can establish trust in like, here is what a story is. It has all of these elements. The problem is nowadays, they want that. They want an ending. They want answers in subplot, in lore, in
Yeah.
you didn't explain how the magic system works, so it's a bad book. And it's just like that. That is like that is a fundamental misunderstanding of
Right.
our genre.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you a soft magic system writer?
so
Ish?
I think it's a spectrum.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so like I would say a vengeful realm, there's really two rules. The magic is derived from the gods and it needs to
Hmm.
be balanced upon the scales.
Sure.
What I mean by that is like there's elemental magic which is balanced within the body's temperatures, or like
Oh,
the
cool.
stiffness or mobility of the body.
Right.
There's some magic systems in this overarching collected universe where um, there's still the balance element, but like to create light magic, the impact is, balancing the scales is anxiety. To create shadow magic, it's depression. To
Right.
create time distorting magic, it brings on elements of grief, or like it brings on memories of the past. To do spatial manipulation, it creates this lack of sense of self, this disorientation of
Sure.
who am I, and then identity kind of starts to fracture. So like there's a balance. Those are the only two rules of it needs to be derived from the gods. Like it can't just like, oh, they can do this now. It's like, no, there's a god that is
Right, right.
the embodiment of this thing, and that's where that and it needs to be balanced in some way, shape, or form. Like in Ghosts of Rainia, like the blood magic is not balanced within the self, it's balanced by the souls of others. And
Right.
that's why
Right.
it's so like ugh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so heavy.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, to me, I look at that and say, like, this is somewhere in the middle. There are
Right.
rules. I can't just be like, and now this happened. Like, but like, I don't
Right.
explain everything. I don't explain why this character is good at it or this character isn't, or why this one's more powerful than that one. They're better at balancing the scales. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. It's in our midichlorian counts. Like, yeah, I didn't stop worrying. You
Right,
know what
right.
I mean? Um,
Yeah.
it's and so like in I had this really interesting conversation about like the thesis was that hard magic systems are based on colonialist ideas, and I was just like, what? Say that again. And they were like, yeah. It's derived from the need to have rules that explain all of the mysticism and magic away.
Mm.
And if you look at a lot of indigenous cultures, a lot of like non-Western world philosophies, how does this work? Why does this work? And it's just like it works.
It works.
And
Yeah.
and it's not questioned. And so like
Mhm.
in the Forsaken Forge, I include a lot of like I've made my own chakral system essentially.
Sure.
But it's called the Asha High. Now Asha in the in Persian culture, Asha is like, we don't have a word for it, but it's kind of the embodiment of everything true, everything light, everything
Sure.
good and whole and pure and purposeful. And so like Asha High, like it's the energetic flow within our body that is meant to ground us and connect us to like a higher power. In this case, it's the
Right.
Arathi currents, which is heaven, the afterlife. So and the Arathi currents are meant to, you live your life here, you go up, you're reincarnated, and eventually you come back.
Mm.
And so like the magic system is very low magic in this world.
Sure.
In that there is it's based on the Asha High, which is rooted in the chakral systems. And my background's in fitness, right? So that's my day job. And I was talking about this with my audiobook narrator today, actually. And he had asked, like, so do you feel that if we had all and he's studying psychology, he's in school for psychology now, and he asked, like, do you think if we knew everything, because he was saying that a friend of his who's a physicist was saying like, oh, yours is a science, you know, psychology is a social science, like, and my response to that was like, okay, so anecdotally, I can have a client who's having a biomechanical issue. Maybe their hip isn't moving right. Maybe they're having this like kind of weird symptom, weird pain they shouldn't be feeling in this movement, but it's manifesting itself. It's real. They're feeling it.
Right.
Why? Could it be rooted in a lack of sequencing within the joints? Yes, of course. So that's where I look first. But if I'm not seeing anything and they're still having that feeling, I can't just be like, you're fine. They're feeling it.
Right.
Like, there's going to be times where I see things they can't feel, and there's other times they feel things I can't see. But then I'll be like, okay, lie on your back. I want you to do this breathing practice. And when you take a full breath, where does it reach all the way to the bottom, or does it feel like it gets trapped? Does it feel like it gets stuck somewhere? And you just let me know, where does it go? And there's been times where people will be like, you know, I feel like it's trapped in my throat. And it's up here. So this is like, all right, let's take a little Eastern medicine for a second. I want you to do the same inhale, that same deep breath, but when you exhale, I want you to hum. It doesn't matter the note, for as long, I just want you to echo it. And that's like a chakral kind of like, we're just trying to get resonance here. We're just trying to get things moving. Now, just because I can't explain how and why that works, every time I do it,
it works.
It works. And not only, okay, I feel like I can breathe deeper. Now go back and do that thing that your body wasn't letting you do before. Do you still have pain? No. And they look at me like, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But like anecdotally, it's real. Do I need it proven by rules and science and hard magic in order to justify it? And I've been finding, like, growing up, like my early reading, like I was really into Sanderson. I loved the hard magic system. And I feel like I used to look almost down on the, you know, the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. Like the magic system's just kind of like hand wavy and doesn't really, and now I kind of feel like that pendulum for me has swung back to like, have we stolen the magic of the world by applying rules and structure and names and explaining? I remember when I read The Name of the Wind, I was like, wow, this is so cool. They're basically using math to explain why magic works. And now I look at that and go, wow, that sucks. I want there to be magic.
The mystery is gone.
I want there to be mystery. I don't want it to be rooted in math and science and cells. And I understand, like, I don't want to turn my brain off to the things that we understand. And it's a gift that we understand these things. But there are things that no matter how much technology progresses, no matter how much we learn and we study, that we should never have this thought process of, I know all.
Right.
And the moment we lose that humility of how vast the world is, we're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't walk out into a giant field or up to the ocean or something and just feel incredibly small, that is an experience I think everyone needs to have. But yeah, I mean,
routinely, not once, routinely. You need to feel small routinely.
Routinely, yeah. And how many times do we hear that we've only explored like a tiny percentage of the human brain? You know, we don't know anything about and human emotions and human, like, there's so many things that we cannot put a hard and fast rule to these things and why they work and and I think part of that comes with the generalization of forgetting that every single individual person is going to respond to things differently. And I see that constantly in like every field ever, like where people are just like, well, like, let's just put everybody in a box all together. You cannot do that. You can't generalize humans. As soon as you try to do that, I mean, there's certain things that are going to, like, we're all going to die. Okay. Like, not to be morbid, but like
death and taxes, baby.
There are things that we will all experience to some degree. Right. but it's still an individual process. So, and I see a lot of that, not to get into my nerdiness too much, but I'm a birth doula. And
Okay.
so when people talk about magic you can't explain, like, birthing women are the most powerful, incredible human beings on the planet. And it is magic every single time. Every single time it is just like, you can't explain. And like, you cannot explain the energy in that room. You can't explain it. And it's so cool. And that's as far as I will go with that, because otherwise I'll be on a soapbox for an hour. But I think too, you brought up a really cool point where we talk about the write what you know crowd, which I think I actually love that statement, but I think it's been misused, because like what you are saying in the way that you're talking about how you are incorporating the magic system and things that your main character does in your story. Yes, you haven't been part of that culture at that time period, but you're bringing in your experience with fitness and with, how your body reacts to things and moves, and you're putting that. So you're still writing what you know in a way that's just translated into fantasy, which I think is so cool.
I tell everyone, like, the authors that I work with, who are, especially new writers, I think they're afraid, like, why should I tell this story? Because every story's been told, and like, what do I have to say? I'm like, if I gave you a prompt, and this is why, like, AI will never replace true storytelling.
Yep.
If I gave a prompt and bullet points for how to structure the plot, and I gave a character arc for how the character arc should go, and I gave themes that I want you to hit, if I gave you all of this stuff and 10 of you heard me the same way, you have the same data, I would have 10 different stories back on my desk.
Every time.
And I believe that 100% every time, because how you, like, and again, we were part of this anthology together.
Right.
Honor. All we were given was a one-word.
Oh my gosh.
Honor.
The range of this anthology is insane. Insane. Yeah. And absolutely insane.
I think that is just the way in which humans are so individualized, and yet so hungry for collectivism.
Yeah.
Like, there's a beauty in that polarity. There's a beauty in that duality. Right. And we need to love that individuality and love that capacity for
connection
community
and unity. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Totally agree. Yeah. I absolutely love one of the things I have really enjoyed as an author, and I'm sure that you've had kind of a similar experience with seeing reviews, seeing people who message you about your books, or people that are reading them, that I come into my story and I have themes that are in the story that I am having this cathartic experience writing about, right?
Yep.
So I'm starting the ball rolling as the author. Once it rolls out of, my field into somebody else's, and they pick up the book and they start reading, I love seeing how people from so many different life experiences and places and ages and stages of life will all find a connection within this book, sometimes in different places.
Yeah.
They're gonna, and I'm sure with you with 7 POVs, everybody's gonna have a different favorite character for different reason. And but it's so cool to see so many different people coming together in this story and all finding something to love in it. I think that's there's no better feeling as an author than seeing that happen, I don't think. But
so for Ghosts of Rainier, when I released Ghosts of Rainier, I did an ARC team book club. And
cool.
So I gave it to them super early, and we spent like 2.5 months reading it. And every 2 weeks we would meet and we would do a Q&A and a discussion.
Yeah.
And they would have to ask me questions, but really I would just I would talk and be like, we covered these things in this chapter. And then kind of like, And the things that people were sharing, it was just like, you
Yeah.
know, I look at um, Ghost of Brainiac was by no means a commercial success, but from a creative standpoint,
Yeah.
I feel like after,
Which isn't always the point.
sure,
Yeah, yeah.
we want it to be,
What we want,
um,
of course, we do
we
want it to
want
be,
it to be,
yes.
but
Yeah.
the creative success that I feel like I had was realized in that book club, because like
Mm,
hearing people and how they engaged with the text
right.
was like, yeah, that that was why I wrote
That's why
this
I'm doing
moment here.
this. Yeah.
um and to see how people were not just reading, not just reacting, but then able to communicate amongst each other about it.
Mm,
I think that's, again, I think that's what makes stories so special. I think
yeah.
that's what, like, we are in a golden age of content, which is both amazing and terrible. And it's amazing because like everyone can find their thing, but it's terrible because we move on too quickly to the next thing, to the next thing, to the
Totally
next
agree.
thing, to the next thing.
Yep.
We have people who are reading 40 books a month, and that's amazing. Good for you. That's awesome. But how much have you engaged with that book with anyone else?
Right.
Any one of those books.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, again, that's the lost art of the art. It
Right.
was meant to bring people together to talk about things, and posting on TikTok and liking the comments, that's not enough. There,
No.
it needs to be more than that.
Well, and
Um,
I love that you're taking it a step farther and doing like the book club and doing the where, because we also live in an age where that barrier between author and reader has come down so much that people have a lot more access to some degree. Some authors still want to have more of a barrier, which is completely understandable. But for those of us who have like almost daily back and forth with a reader in some capacity, it I think it does encourage those when it's healthy and everyone's being an adult, it encourages a lot of like,
Prerequisite. Yeah, that's prerequisite.
prerequisite. Let's all just assume that we can have adult conversations, which is a huge ask on the internet, I realize. But I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I have a booktube channel and I review a lot of books every year. I also have doing the conversation. I respond to every comment that I can, because that's part of, I love when people write me a novel of a comment because they had so much to say about the same book that we both read, right? And like doing my patron book club where we read and we have a whole discussion thread in my Discord about every book we read every month, and like seeing what different people pull out of the book where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize that happened. And suddenly you have this whole, it's such a, when people look for community, that's the kind of thing that I wish everyone had, and why I think it's so important for, in whatever capacity we can, whether it's author, reviewer, or whatever that looks like, um, to do our part in continuing to expand that circle so that more people feel like they're learning how to discuss what they're reading and consuming instead of just mindlessly consuming it.
Consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about consumerism, so
So do
careful with the word.
I.
The word is it is,
Oh,
and it's not a soapbox. It is a diving
oh
platform.
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, like Kai had a great comment up here. I don't know if I can find it. Oh, here, we aren't even built to deal with the complexity of our physical world as it has become. So not only are people inputting a just ungodly amount of information on a daily, minute by minute basis throughout the day, but then they're not processing it in any way that's really meaningful a lot of the time. And so it's just a double-edged sword at this point, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
how do what do we do with that? How do we, like I don't know. I like
We
to
write books,
take
Tim.
on, yeah. Well, but how do we write books and create spaces where people enter into and get something out of it?
Right.
And so, like, I the wall that you're talking about between author and, traditional publishing has, for better or worse, like there's been times where, I'm sure you've had it too, where you're selling at an event and they're like, "Are you the author?" And it's like this, like,
oh my gosh, they're like, you're not human, like you're not human somehow. Yeah.
and it's like, I, yes, but like, why? I listen.
I'm not that cool. Like,
I'm
it's not that
I've
big of a deal.
I'm also like, I've never been starstruck. I'm not that,
Mm.
like, that doesn't do anything for me.
Mm.
And like, so, I worked at a gym in Midtown Manhattan that was right next to like a really swanky hotel. So like
So you've seen some
the
people.
the amount of names that can be dropped, and it's just like, and they walked on the treadmill. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
They're a guy. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
I never understood that.
Oh,
But
celebrity
like,
culture. I have so much. Have you ever seen, I recommend this all the time, Jack Gleason, who played Joffrey in Game of
mhm,
Thrones. Have you seen his Oxford speech on celebrity culture?
I have not.
It is brilliant. Like, he's a really smart guy. And I can't remember how long he said I think he came up with the speech in like on his train ride over, and like, it was something ridiculous like that. And it's so good. I recommend it to everybody because it's so well spoken and so poignant about the problems that causes and how it dehumanizes both the fan and the celebrity and in all of this. And I think there, in fairness, there's a really big difference for people that are just excited to meet somebody else that they have, so like at Dragonsteel, people coming up, and so this, I'm just putting in the caveat, the people that came up to my booth at Dragonsteel who were like, "Oh my gosh, you're Tori from Tori," and I was like, that's so cool, and we love meeting people, so it's not like, that's not the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But the people who genuinely, and it's worse online than in person, but people who genuinely don't expect authors to be human beings with families and lives, yeah, that's a we've got so many soapbox opportunities here, Tim. Look at us go. How many is that in like 10 minutes?
I know.
We're both going to be, kicked out of the internet here. No, my audience is so used to this. They put up with me. Casey says, "I'm not a cat. No boxes for me."
There you go.
Yeah,
But who doesn't love watching a cat cuddle into a cardboard box?
it's true. I love that my cat loves boxes. So you had a great quote that I wanted to bring up before I forget, and that was, I was watching you have a video on your YouTube channel about geography and climate in books, and one of the things that I kind of pinpointed as something that I really jived with in Ghosts of Rainier was the world building and how immersive the world. I love it when the world feels like its own character, and it almost feels like it's living and breathing in the background as the characters are doing stuff. And like in certain books, I'm not naming any names, but maybe one that's like, somewhere here behind me, where it's very dark and creepy and immersive. It's so cool to see when an author can pull that off, because I do feel like that is something that is hard to do. It's hard to create a world that feels so living and breathing. And you had an awesome quote from your YouTube video about that. And this is something I think is underutilized in fantasy, is the environment. Oftentimes authors are just kind of, and they're in a place and then we do all the stuff, but it's like, well, okay, but like you could use that. Realism grounds fantasy, so the fantastical elements stand out. And that's a really important conversation, I think, with world building and anything else within fantasy. And I know Robin Hobb has some very strong opinions about that, and she's going to be much more eloquent about it than me. But for you, what where's that line between I'm infusing this with enough reality to make it grounding, and so that the reader can step into that world and feel like they're part of what's going on, and where's that line between where do you push the fantastical and you have like this magic, like giant blood magic skeleton king going on, so where do you find that balance of the realism versus the fantastic?
So I think it really depends on what serves the story.
Mm.
And if you orient the lens always back to that, what serves the story specifically from the reader experience.
Right.
Because it's so easy to get self-indulgent.
Yes.
And I have like my forever DMs who, they love world building, and they're like, look at all the lore. And I'm like, how does the lore tell the story?
But
How
what
does
does
it
it
shape
do?
the
Yeah.
character? How does it impact how they move through the world? How does it reflect the themes in every
Mm.
way? Like, I'm all about cohesiveness. Does
Yeah.
it add to that through line? And so often it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
details. It's
It's
bogging
fluff.
down with details.
Yeah.
And world building for the sake of world building. Some people love that, but they're usually the forever DMs who just like they're going to use that to make their Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And so I think that like um, if we look at from a storycraft standpoint, how does the reality of this world serve my story and set the
Mm.
foundation for what I want it to do? So
Right.
in Ghost of Rania, like, and I have a forward written by a therapist. I
Yes.
have like
Yeah.
there's I wrote like and just a note from the author. This is
Yeah.
a story that I was writing as my mom was dying.
Mm.
And this was outlined like there's an element of just like I need to write happier books because there's like if I write something, I'm gonna start dealing with it. It happens like one, then the
Yeah.
other.
Yep.
So I'm just like, need to
Yep.
start writing happier books. But this one was so hard to write because it was like it's a story in an undead world where
Right.
nothing gets to die truly,
Right.
so no one truly lives. And
Right.
so what does that start to look like for a character who like literally never sees the sun, who literally lives underground?
Yep.
And so like this is a culture, because like in Ghost of Rainy, it is a culture where bodies were buried underground.
Mm.
And so like even that, yes, they're trying to hide from the Skeleton King and his is the Order's dominion, but
Right.
they're underground because they're already dead inside. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's there's elements of like um we don't just have like yes, we can look at geography, yes, we can look at climate, yes, we can look at customs and culture.
Right.
And how do they thematically reflect the types of stories we want to tell? So this was a
Right.
story that really deals with um its estrangement, with abandonment,
Mm.
with what does it mean to live in a world set on death?
Right.
Um, what what is surviving versus living? Um, and then there's a big thing because it's like these two sisters, these two estranged sisters. Do we flee this Skeleton King's cursed island and look for greener pastures, or do we fight to
Mm.
restore this land, this home, and make it into a home not just for us but for everyone? And
Mm.
I when I was writing it, I was like, I don't want one of them to be right. This isn't
Yeah.
like a right wrong situation.
Yeah.
It's a this is hard.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. And
just
I
hard.
definitely I feel like that was something that like was pulled off really well through the whole book. I never it's interesting because I'm such a character person. I usually latch on to a character and that's my like, anchor point through the story. And through the entire thing, there wasn't really a moment where I picked a side. if that makes sense. There was
Yeah.
so much about both of the sides, if you will, that you just accept in the story because you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And oh, well, yeah, that also makes sense, which I think is also, you know, like you're saying, that's a balance that you have to walk as an author, is how do you elicit that kind of response, as opposed to it's an you're telling the reader which side to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even in the book club, like it was fun for me to do this because like, you know, this came out after A Vengeful Realm, obviously. So like there were some people who had read A Vengeful Realm, so like they'd
Yeah.
already known the character of Thraina. So they were just
Right.
like, some people were like, I'm Team Thraina, and I was just like,
Right.
you're not gonna have a good time with this book then.
You're in for a surprise.
Because like it's
Yeah.
not meant to be like good guy, bad guy.
Right.
And so the notion of like it's not right, it's not wrong, it's not good or it's not bad, it's just hard.
Mm-hmm.
And some things are just hard, and you
Yeah.
just have to pick up and move through and try to do so with people. And sometimes you're not going to get closure, and sometimes you're not
Yeah.
going to get reconciliation, and sometimes you're going to have to make do with that. And that's
Right.
hard, that's sad, and that's hard, but it's real.
Yeah.
And so I wanted the world to also reflect that, because I knew those were the themes I was going to be working with. So
Right.
I wanted a world that like machines keep things alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, do you want sunlight? You have to go to the Arcana tech that literally makes
Makes
sunlight.
light. Yeah.
And if you in the towns outside of the Order's dominion, they don't have that. So like they're just trying to get enough crops to like show, look at us trying. Please
Yeah.
accept us into the Order. Like even that is just so like, imagine like, I mean, in such a scarcity mindset.
Right.
And the desperation of just like, you have the tools to help and you are withholding them until we prove our obedience. I needed the world to showcase the Order's cruelty, because like while the sisters are not good or bad, there clearly is a bad in this situation.
Sure.
You know, spoiler alert, it's the Skeleton King. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that was a, you know, I'm not trying to.
It's on the back of the book, so I feel like, yeah,
I think that's fair. But like, so often we want to villainize our allies, our neighbors. And
Yeah.
the reason I wanted a purely like, you know, clearly we have a bad guy here, is to put into like create some contrast and make people realize like there can be reconciliation here. There
Right.
can't be up here, because this thing, its entity is unity through death.
Mm-hmm. It's not, you can't really like do anything with
you can't bargain with that. You
No.
can't, yeah, you can't
Right.
play nice with that.
Right.
There's fight or there's flee. And so I think when, like, as you're saying, like the world feels like it lives, it breathes, like I wanted the world to feel lived in.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if the world can feel lived in, and the world can reflect the character's journey, and the world can embody the themes in and of itself. You know, like I often like to play with like flora and fauna. And in Ghost of Rainier, there's Dreadroot. It's like the only
Yep.
named like bit of, because everything else is dead. But Dreadroot, this vine that ensnares, still thrives. And like, why does this one thing that suffocates the life from everything else get to thrive? Because everything else is dying.
Right.
And like everything from the underground to the Arcana tech that makes light, I wanted everything to reflect how difficult life can be when you have to do it alone.
Right. Yeah.
And so often we as humanity, we as humans, we choose into isolation because we want to be right. or we want to defend, or we want to, and I wanted this story to offer like an olive branch to the reader and be like, I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's someone who might need a little bit of grace, or you might need to set a boundary with. Because like, not for nothing, you know, I wanted like the sisters have to come together if they're going to defeat the Skeleton King or succeed in fleeing the Skeleton King. But I also didn't want to be like, and now they're buddy happy ever
and
after.
Now they're because it's not really realistic.
Like sometimes it's like, I see you, you see me. We don't need to be friends.
Right.
We don't need to be, but we can still. I don't need to hold the hate anymore.
Right.
And I think that that's something that, you know, in a world, when the world wants to hold hate, this world, Rainia, wants to hold hate.
Yeah.
It wants to hold death. Like, you have to choose life, and you have to choose it every time.
Every time. Yep.
Or it'll win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, I love themes. Yeah. And it's really, like you said, I think it's something that any reader is going to be able to, you know, you've done your job when any reader can come in and they can find a space that they relate to and also that challenges them in some way, whether it's something small, something bigger. And I think, like you said, it's our responsibility as authors to create a place where we are inviting the reader to come in and be part of that conversation and be part of inviting their experiences to be part of that conversation. So yeah, I think that's awesome. But well, Tim, it has been over almost, we're closing in on 2 hours. So, and I say this every stream, so I'm going to say it again so everybody can mark their bingo cards. I could literally talk to you for the next 2 hours and we would have a great time and probably come up with some more soapboxes that we share. But I want to remind everybody again, whether you're in the chat, watching on replay, to go down in the description box to check out Tim's website. All of his books are listed there. And also he has a ongoing Kickstarter that I think is open for the next 12 days, 11 or 12 days.
The 24th is the 24th is the cutoff.
Okay. So yeah, go check out the Kickstarter. There's lots of different tiers for whatever type of reader you are, whether that's ebook all the way up to fancy special edition. Also, keep an eye out for the release of the Honor Anthology at the very end of March. And very excited to start seeing those Kickstarter editions going out to everybody. It's going to be super fun. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with me this evening, Tim. This was really fun.
Thank you. Anytime, if you're like, hey, someone dropped out.
I need somebody.
I need a body. I'm here. I'm down.
Perfect.
Anytime.
Perfect. I'll put you down on my list for bodies I might need on my show at some point. But yeah,
always
I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Oh, of course.
Yeah. I totally, yeah, exactly, Don. That was, so we've now introduced Tim. now we can start the conversation. I love my audience. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Tim, thank you for joining us. Everybody check out all of Tim's links. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope you are having some 5-star reads. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.